Hi and welcome to this online course in gamification design. My name is Mario Herger and I'm gonna walk you through chapter 3.2, Enterprise Gamification. Maybe a little bit about my person. I've been working for 15 years with SAP, the large German software company, and I've started gamification there in 2010. And since October 2013, I run my own consultancy. I left SAP, and my company is called Enterprise Gamification Consultancy. So much about me. Now let's dive in and understand what gamification is and what it means in a corporate context. Does gamification look something like this? Well, if you were listening to the articles of newspapers and a lot of people who are critical about it, you would think everything turns into a video game with characters like this, with fancy graphics, and which also deters a lot of people who think that work and fun do not go together. But honestly, that is not what gamification looks like. This is a little bit more like gamification looks like. This is a website that you certainly know. It's called LinkedIn. If you're in Germany, you have an equivalent that's called Xing. Now you may say, wait a moment, this is not gamification. Where is the game? I'm not playing here anything. Yeah, I would have known about that. Well, here are all these gamification elements. Let me show you a couple of them. Profile completeness bar, who's viewed your profile, over the last week, yeah, then your clicks on updates that you do, who's viewed your updates, yeah, how influential are you, how often people view your profile over a certain period, your contribution level in the forums. Other things are where you see how much of an influencer you are. Also, how people endorse you and think about you, yeah. Then the connections that you have, who has more connections here, yeah, how many people have viewed your profile, how important are you, what's your profile strength, did you fill it out properly, is your profile one on the top 5% or top 1% viewed profiles all over the year, and what are your skills and expertise that you have. This is a collection of gamification design elements in such a website that help you to change people's behaviors and how they react. And that is what gamification looks like in most cases. Before I give you a definition of gamification, I'm going to the basics. We take a look at play. So play, as you may see, this little boy here, he gets this toy, but what he's doing is he's playing with the box that the toy came in. Now, what is play? Play is manipulation that indulges curiosity. That is what game designer Jesse Shell says. Or maybe in a little bit different words, game has no rules, game has no goals. When a boy takes a box like this and pretends this is a castle, this is spontaneous, there are no rules, there are no goals, nothing can be made a profit out of that. Play is so important that it's also for animals. It's not just a human thing. So play, as you can see here, between an ice bear, a polar bear, and a husky, they're normally, the bear would easily be able to crush the dog. But here he's playing. And that is what we see in nature a lot. Play seems to be so important that even if they're starving or even if it is dangerous, that they're getting there to get into this playful mood. As it turns out, animals or humans who have not had enough playtime in their childhood have difficulties distinguishing between friends and foes. So there seems to be a very important aspect and in play that you have enough playtime. As it was discovered when scientists researched the childhood of murderers who were in jail, it turns out that they had significantly less playtime when they were children. So they could not distinguish when it's still a game, when it is still playful with roughhousing, and when we're turning it into a serious thing and when to stop. And that's what they never learned. Now, there are 5 characteristics of play. Play is free. Play is, in fact, freedom. And play is not ordinary or real life. It has its special place. And also play is distinct from the ordinary life, both as the locality and the duration. Play also creates order and is order. Play demands order, absolute and supreme. And play is connected with no material interest and no profit can be gained from that. That is according to the Dutch philosopher Johan Huizinga in his work Homo Ludens, the playful people person. Now let's go to games. Games are problem-solving activities that are approached with a playful attitude. So what we see here is Monopoly. Monopoly has rules. Monopoly has also players, so we know exactly who the players are. And these players choose freely to play. Also, they have a space. You see this board, or it could be a play field, or it could be a virtual world where the game takes place. And games must have rules, and the players need to accept the rules when they enter the game space. And games can both be finite or infinite. Finite means the game has an ending. You know, when I typically play a game, the players are aiming actually to end the game. Yeah, a soccer game is over after 90 minutes. Yeah, a chess game is over once you checkmated your opponent. But then there are infinite games. They have not an ending, and we will talk about it a little bit later. Not only later, it's just here that we already talk about that. So we have finite and infinite games. The players in the finite games are clearly specified. When I walk with a football team on the field, we know exactly who the players are. There is nobody else coming in there except the reserve players or the other group or the other team. But we cannot have somebody from the audience just suddenly jumping in and playing there. While in an infinite game, the players and the number of players may change all the time. Think, for example, of a community. A community could be an online community where people are helping each other. People are getting rewarded for that. There's not really a beginning. There's not really a precise number or defined number of players. They are coming in, they're coming out. We have newbies coming in, we have old rookies going out. There's a clear end in the game. There's a winning condition. Well, in an infinite game, there is no end. The goal of a finite game is to end the game and have a winner. In an infinite game, the goal is actually to keep the game going. A community, a gamified CRM, needs to get going on. The rules are completely clear in a finite game, while the rules in an infinite game, they are changing. You can't change rules during a soccer game. You can't change rules during the tennis game. Yeah? But in an infinite game, they must be changed if there's a threat that the game may end. There's also a clearly defined space in a finite game. There's only the chessboard with the 64 fields and nothing else there. There are no 120 something additional fields there. No, these are only the 64 fields in this game when I started. The infinite game, on the other hand, is diffuse. It could change again. Yeah? And the game happens within boundaries, while in an infinite game, the game plays with the boundaries and changes them. Now, this is according to a French philosopher called James P. Cars. And he wrote the book Finite and Infinite Games. Now let's go to serious games. Serious games are games designed for primary purpose other than entertainment. So what are the characteristics of a serious game? A serious game teaches you skill, a task performance, or a cognitive decision making. An entertainment software teaches you to play the game. So that's the only thing that it teaches you. It entertains you then. So when we look at SimCity, which is a game that simulates or we play building a city, do you think it's a serious game or is it an entertainment software? Actually, it was built with the primary purpose to entertain. That means also there's no need for it to really stick to reality. That's why in the latest iteration of SimCity, you have comets hitting the city and so on. Yeah? That it can be used also to teach a skill and is used by many city administrators to understand better influence factors of when they change something in a city. This is a different story. That also gives you an indication why often serious games are not really fun to play and maybe actually boring. So, if you look at it, a serious game is a problem-solving activity. It is built on a model of and indirectly connected to reality, but is approached with a playful attitude. Let's take a look at simulations. A simulation is the imitation of the operation of a real-world process or system over the time. Now, most characteristics of a serious game apply also for simulations. A playful attitude is not necessarily required. It's often pretty serious what's going on there. Yeah? And it is often what I call an in-system experience. So when you're sitting on a flight simulator, this could be looking like the real flight system that you're going to sit in. It could be built into the ERP system, the ERP software, the business software that you have, just with simulated data. That means it's not separately from the real world, it's often included in the real world system. So here is an example of a gamified project management system. And when we talk about gamification, gamification is the use of game design elements in a non-game context. So what does that mean? It is used by entities such as corporations or organizations. There are often multiple players, your employees, your customers, your partners or vendors. Yeah? It can be simultaneous play or non-simultaneous play. So if you are working in a different time zone, then it may be that you're non-simultaneously interacting with the system and the other players play during the time when you sleep. There is autonomy and freedom in those systems. Even if you say, well, people are forced to play it. Yeah? Well, it turns out that deciding on, giving the players the decision of which time recording system do you want to play or which CRM system do you want to play does not mean autonomy or freedom. Yeah? It means basically putting the choices on them, and in this case, this is actually, as it turns out, pretty problematic for many people. Too much choice, too many choices are actually a burden. Gamification also means, in many cases, that it is in-system. So the CRM system, gamification is in the system directly. It's not a separate system somewhere, and then I have to go and enter the data again in the real system. No, it's the same. LinkedIn, as you've seen this example before, there is not a different version of LinkedIn that is gamified and a version of LinkedIn that is non-gamified. It is the same system that you have. In gamification, we use both finite and infinite games. Finite could be a little teaching scheme that I have that teaches you a certain skill. An infinite game is, for example, LinkedIn. It's never ending. Yeah, I will go and continue and go on. And then there is what is called value creation. Now let's take a look at value creation. Let's go back in history. Let's go back to the 19th century. The 19th century is basically when industrial revolution started. What did it mean? In the industrial age, so before the industrial age, when you were a shoemaker, let's say you were a shoemaker, you interacted in the whole production cycle with every step that was there involved in creating a shoe. So the customer came in, you measured the foot of the customer, you created a model on that, you bought the leather, you bought the wood, you bought the nails, everything what you had. Then you cut it, cut it together, nailed it on the shoe, prepared everything, and once the shoe was done, the customer came back and you handed over your product that you had. So you had this whole cycle you were in. Of course, as we know, if these are very complex products, you can't be the best in every step there. So in the Industrial Revolution, took now the steps and put not only machines in there, but also cut it down to smaller steps that you did. For many people, that meant that, of course, they lost the larger picture. They didn't see. They had little steps like the screws, like Charlie Chaplin in the Machine Age movie, did just this little steps, and he didn't see anymore what actually was his contribution, what did he contribute to society. But of course, this division of labor led to a huge increase in the wealth of the society. And you know that many of us live much longer than these generations back then. Now, of course, this flattened. What happened is we came to a phase where the things did not increase anymore, did not add that much value anymore. But we saw a second age. That was the age of information. Everything got computerized, and suddenly there was a huge value on information. So when 40, 50 years ago, the first computer systems came out there that put information technology on such processes that made them more effective, we saw again an increase in that sense. So when we looked at those things, what we saw is that we took the processes that we had and put them into computer systems and modeled them after that and could do more work. But we never looked really at the users. So when we figured out the users have troubles of using such computer systems, we invented what we call user-centered design. So we put the user in the middle and said, let's take a look at how we can make it easier for the user to use such computer systems with less errors, that it's getting faster, etc. Now, of course, this was a good thing. It helped a lot. But when we talk about users, we never ask them, are you actually interested in doing the stuff that you're supposed to do? Are you motivated to do that? Is this in your interest doing that? And this is where gamification comes in. We are in the gamification age. We are looking at the players. See, I'm calling them not users anymore, I call them players. Because first and foremost, I have to look, is there value in for the player? Is there some value that we create when we gamify a system? Not for the company, but for the player. And if we create value for the player, we create value for the company. So the purposes of gamification are fourfold. I see four areas where the primary purposes and secondary purposes may lay. The first one is to engage the players. Engaging means examples like enter your time in a more timely manner, such as this example here. A consulting company that has consultants, and they should of course record their time so that the consulting company can bill the customers faster and get the money earlier. Now people of course don't want to do these things, so what did they do here? They put little smileys up there, so when you were recording your time in time, you got a smiley. And you wanted to have a clean slate of 4 smileys in the last 4 weeks. So you engaged them, and suddenly this company had 99% of compliance with that. Another purpose is to teach. Teaching is, like in a serious game, some facts, some cognitive things, some skills. Here's an example from software company SAP. This is a sales simulation game. This teaches the sales force on mobile devices. So in this sales simulation, you're sitting here in front of a fictitious customer, in this case, the CIO of a premier wine distributor, and he asks you questions about mobile technologies. And by going through a cheat sheet and by selecting the proper answers, you're seeing if you're right with that and win the customer, or you win him not. By closing a deal, you go to the next level, to the next customer, and after you played that game for some time, you know much better about the mobile technology that your own company offers you. So when you go then to a real customer, you're much better prepared for such a sales negotiation. The third purpose is to entertain. So that means there's not really, we don't want to engage them properly or teach them something, we just want to have fun, give them fun, make them fun. And this could be because the company may be celebrating a certain anniversary, or there is a big championship going on, such as the European Champions League. Yeah? SAP created an application that was called Paul the Octopus. If you remember, Paul was an octopus in a German zoo uh, who was given always the choice to pick food from two different boxes, but on these boxes were the names of the teams that were competing against each other. And it turns out then that in such World Cups, he had always picked the box that actually made it to the next round. So that's why he became a famous Paul the Octopus. And SAP created a little game to engage and have fun and entertain soccer fans. The fourth purpose of gamification is to measure certain skills of the players. The players may be your employees, this may be candidates that you want to hire, this may be partners, etc. Here's an example. In HR, in the recruitment process, you want to figure out of how qualified employees these potential hires are. But it's not about grades from university or something like that, but by testing their skills with such a tool, like how persistent are they? When they fail, how long would they go on? How is their thinking process? So that is a game that here helps you to do that. If you want to learn more about these games, download the slides. In the notes are always the links and some additional comments. When we compare now the different things that we have mentioned from play, game, serious game, simulation, and gamification, we can see this matrix here. So play is spontaneous, everything else not. Yeah, there are rules, except with play, we have everywhere rules, we have everywhere goals. It is a structured approach, but then the question is, where is a real-world outcome, and is it in system or out of system? And that's where you can see distinctions between these 5 iterations. Now, how do we gamify? How do we approach that? First is we need to understand the problem. Is this problem really a behavior problem? Don't forget, with gamification, we change behaviors, we create habits. If this is an IT problem, the server is too slow, gamification won't help you. You have to fix that first. So that's why it's important to ask always, so why are they not filling out the fields in time? Because the server is too slow. Why is the server too slow? You have not enough servers. Okay, that's an IT problem, fix it. And then we take a look at what's the behavior. So important is understanding the problem. Also, can we measure this problem? Yeah, is there something like people are not engaged? What does engagement mean? Well, they're not coming often enough. They're not reading enough articles. They're not reading enough. They're not sharing it enough. Then we have here something where we can put measures behind it and say, okay, today they read only 1 article on their visit, but now we want to have them read 5 articles. Yeah? Then we observe. And that is important. We can't just go there and say, okay, I know the solution and I build it. No, you don't know. You don't want to waste 6 months programming on that and then seeing, actually, that's not what the users wanted. You need to go in the natural habitat of your players and sit there and watch them doing it and look also at the environment. I give you an example. There was this lady, a sales lady. She was very successful. She was a top salesperson in her company. And of course, as a salesperson, you do a lot of phone calls. So the IT team came to her and asked her, can we observe you? Because we wanted to change the teleconferencing system and we wanted to make it better so that we can use it more efficiently. And she said, yeah, of course, yeah, sure. Let's book a meeting room and I'll tell you of how I'm working. Then the researcher said, no. We want to come into your office and look how you're doing that. So when they came to her, sat in her office, they saw, the usual things, the desk, you saw the telephones, you saw pictures of the family, you saw some sticky notes around her monitor, flowers, everything what you typically have in a workplace. Now when she started making her first phone call, what did she do? She picked up the handle from the first phone. She dialed the number and then she put the handle on the table. She picked up the handle from the second phone that she had, dialed the second number and put the handle down there again. Then she took the one from the third one, did the same again, and then finally she did it with cell phone, and then she had 4 phones here, 4 lines open, and bending over that, started to talk and do this conference call. That's how she was using the conference call system. Not at all. She didn't use it ever. If the gamification designers or the IT guys had not seen her in her natural habitat, they would have just built something and improved something that she had never used before. That is why it is important to understand what your players are doing, what they're doing in the breaks, what they're talking about, what they're motivated. Then you create what is called a player point of view. Once you have that, you can ideate around those ideas. You can ideate around a solution, prototype it, and validate it and launch it with them. But as you can see here in this image, you see all these lines going back and forth. It's not a straight linear process. It's an iterative process where everything goes back and forth. You need to understand your player's point of view. You need to understand your problem. You need to have empathy with your user. Now, empathy is a very important thing. What you see here is a hotel room. So apparently somebody did some towel animals. Yeah, a little elephant, as you can see, and there's an animal here. So would you say the roommate was very engaged or not? Certainly, I would say this is a very engaged roommate, and if you have children and they come in and see that, they're very delighted about seeing some such thing. So that gives you a good impression, and you like the hotel more, and you will probably take pictures and post it on Facebook, and thus bring value to the hotel, because the hotel will get free advertising for that. But it also means you need to be able to, you need to have empathy for your roommate. You can't go and measure them like, how fast are they doing that? How clean is it? And when they are not fast enough, they lose points. And when they are not cleaning enough the room, then they also lose points. That means when you think and hate your employees that you're building such a system for, when you hate your players, you're not getting a good game out there. You're not doing a good gamification design. You have to have empathy, real understanding of what they like, what they're motivated with. You can't build a good game if you hate your customers and players here. You don't want to be hated and see that. Yeah? That's why empathy is important. Which brings me to my definition of enterprise gamification. Enterprise gamification is an empathy-based process of enhancing a service with affordances for gameful experiences to support players' overall value creation that indirectly support also the entity's overall value creation. Or, if that's so long, I just say make work more fun. Now, if you want to learn more about gamification and read up more on that, I have a large website that's called Enterprise Gamification. Here's the link. We have also a huge wiki there. You are welcome to contribute to that. We have here a collection of several hundred examples. We have a definition of gamification design elements and other things such as competition, what does it mean, what is a player, etc. Feel free to contribute. And we have also a gamification decision engine. So if you are in a corporation and you want to gamify something but have no clue how to start that, or what could be something that you could get out of the budget that you have, there is the gamification decision engine, which asks you between 5 to 10 questions and gives you then a couple of examples of how such a thing could look like. And then Octalysis. Octalysis is a tool also that looks around core drives so that you can better figure out of how to build a gamification design. That's by my partner Yukai Chu, who is a partner in the Enterprise Gamification Consultancy. If you want to reach out to me, feel free. I have here my email. I have also a Twitter handle, Mherga, and connect with me on LinkedIn. Now, enjoy the other sessions as well. Bye.